morning, everyone. Nice to see all of you here today. Welcome to the beloved community known as UU Amherst. My name is Julie Marquis, and this weekend actually marks 1 year from the first time my friend Charlie Destries and I came to our first service here. So it's, thank you, Marlena. So it is, and thank you. Thank you, Ron. This really is, we say in here every week, this is a beloved community, and it truly is, and can be, and I know it has been for me, and it's just been a delightful place to come to, so many wonderful people who have become friends, and thank you all for that. We are a community at many ages and stages of life. We have assistive hearing devices at the Usher's Station and childcare and activities. All are at the back of the chapel. If at any time you are having difficulty hearing or staying present to the service, feel free to move closer to the front because there's always plenty of seating up front. Children and youth are invited to leave following the labyrinth meditation to have some multi-age fun and values building, and return for the last song and announcements. For those gathered here in the chapel, I urge you to either place your phone on airplane mode or to completely turn it off to free up web bandwidth for the live stream. And the folks who are watching at home, if you haven't already, if you could please do so now. Clicking your phones? Okay, we're good. And now let's do what we do best, and that is to welcome one another into this time made sacred by our presence together. See what happens? We get to talking and it's kind of hard to stop. So it's good to have the bowl to get us back together. It is our custom when we gather to light a chalice. The chalice is a cup or vessel that symbolizes the gathered community. The flame represents the spark that each one of us brings to represent the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of our commitment to bring more compassion and justice to the world. Please join me and the lovely and wonderful Mickey Tannehill in our chalice lighting words. We gather this hour as people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope for our quest of truth and meaning in celebration of our life together. Each week, as we light the chalice to symbolize the gathered community, we also acknowledge that our church is built on holy ground, land that was nurtured and cultivated and too often soaked with the blood of the first peoples who occupied it before us. We offer this libation as our giveaway, a symbol of our respect for and deep connection with the land.
Our song of intention this morning is When the Spirit Says Do. Now, if you were sort of wandering in from the parking lot and missed the prelude, I just want to give you fair warning. Something could happen here. So I invite you, there you go. Don't encourage him. So I invite you to rise and bow to your spirit as we sing When the Spirit Says Do. With a frowny face today, then there's nothing I can do for you. Okay. How many of you know that in one of my previous lives, I was a professional puppeteer? Now all of you do. Okay. But we did not work with soft and plushies, or even Muppets. But that's a story for another day. This is the story of an elephant and a dog. I was going to buy a dog puppet to go with my elephant puppet, but the dog puppets were all at least as big or bigger, and I thought, well, that's weird. So he came from home from the toy box. So, how many of you have seen pictures of elephant families and they're walking all in a row and there's tails connected to trunks and it's like they're holding hands? Have y'all seen that? Well, that doesn't always happen. Sometimes elephants end up alone. There was a kingdom who had a very wealthy king, and he had a magnificent elephant. Can someone make an elephant sound? I knew I could count on you. So this elephant was so adored and so cared for. He had his own sort of private suite. It was much more than a stall. And lovely grounds to take long elephant walks on. I won't ask you to do the elephant walk, but I know you can. And there was actually a staff person whose whole job was to look after this elephant, called a mahout. And I looked it up. It means one who takes care of elephants. How wonderful is that? So the elephant had everything he could possibly need. He had sumptuous food, fresh hay, fruit, rice, all kinds of interesting and delicious things to eat. And when he had a little scratch, when his skin would get a little dry, the mahout would take him to his favorite mud hole, and the elephant would roll, and oh, it was so wonderful. And then he'd go back, and he'd be hosed off, and he would be just as clean. And so every day, this was the life of this particular elephant. But he was not happy. And he would just sort of change his balance from side to side in his very elaborate suite of rooms. He was lonely. He didn't have a family. He literally had staff, but he did not have family. So as it happened, there was a dog who started hanging around outside the enclosure and couldn't help but notice that that elephant was a very sloppy eater. And this was a very, very hungry dog. And so when the mahout was not looking, and the elephant was carefully looking in another direction, the dog wandered over, grabbed a little something, and then scurried off. But the elephant didn't seem to notice. The elephant was off, looking at flowers. I certainly don't notice a dog hanging around my enclosure. So the dog got bolder and would come by, and the elephant didn't seem to mind him. So then the dog, being a very logical dog, said, well, I don't have to keep running away. I can just kind of set up camp. And so he did. And he found a nice little place in the enclosure where he would sleep, and then he'd come out and he would have a little bite to eat. And after a tiny bit of time, the elephant seemed to take an interest. And they started a little friendship of this lonely elephant and this starved dog who was starved for more than food. He was starved for affection. No, he didn't live in a house with anybody. So I'd like to tell you something, a station break, about puppetry. Oh, okay. I just need a minute here. Back to our show. And so it happened that this became the pattern. The dog started getting kind of plump, and his coat got glossy. And the mahout had noticed this sort of relationship, but he didn't really think that, dumb animals could have a relationship. And so he noticed that the dog was getting very attractive. And he had heard that somewhere in the kingdom, someone was looking for a dog. And so he thought, this is an excellent way for me to make a little extra cash, and nobody's going to miss this dog. And so the dog was sent off to go wherever this person was that needed a dog. And then something interesting happened. The elephant was no longer interested in food. And it didn't matter how sumptuous the feast was. The elephant was not interested, and he refused. And then he lost interest in going to the mud hole. There was nothing there for him. And the mahout started getting nervous, and he went to the king and he said, I think there's something wrong with our elephant. He's not eating, and he doesn't respond to invitations to go out and roll in the mud. And so the king sent for one of his advisors, who was very wise in the ways of animals, and he looked deep into the elephant's eyes, and he knew the elephant was grieving. And the mahout sort of did the math. Oh, the dog. I don't know where it ended up. I don't know. I need to get the dog back. Clearly they were friends. But I don't know where he is. So the king, being a good king who wanted his elephant happy, sent out a decree and said, whoever recently purchased a dog that came from the king's royal residence, you need to bring it back. Well, the person that had purchased the dog was so glad to take it back, because that dog had just been crying for weeks. And no food enticed him, no going out for a romp. He was forlorn. So the owner was like, keep the money, that's fine. This dog is clearly unhappy, and nothing I do will make him happy. Well, as you might imagine, when the dog came bounding into the enclosure, there was much rejoicing. I think we're going to need several elephant sounds. Here we go, 1, 2, 3. There was much rejoicing. Thank you. Don't leave me hanging here. And let's see, was there a moral to this story? Oh, yes, it is. Having a friend is the best medicine. There we go. Oh, my. Such a tough crowd. Oh, I said that out loud, didn't I? All right. Each week, we bring our whole selves into this gathered circle, this community. And at the heart of our space is a table, a round table, so there's room for everyone around the edges, well, at least if you take turns. No sharp corners. And we come forward, and in this container of love and care, we leave our unspoken joys, concerns, sorrows, knowing that they are held in the love of this community. And so as the music plays, I invite you to come forward as you will, and to bring that which is on your heart. Come forward. hold in our hearts all who are suffering, including ourselves. Although we may feel powerless to affect big changes in the world, we know that intimate acts of compassion can ripple out and change lives and change hearts. Please remain seated as we sing our meditation in song, and children and youth are invited to leave for their program and return at the end of the service. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul. Speak for me, speak for me, speak for me, oh my soul. Speak for me, speak for me, speak for me, oh my soul. Dance with me, dance with me, dance with me, oh my soul. Dance with me, dance with me, dance with me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul.
We are a beloved community, a gathering of people who have chosen to journey together, to encourage one another, and to be part of something important and life-changing. Because we aspire to be such a people, we make bold promises about how we will be with one another. Whether today is your first time or you've made UU Amherst your longtime home, you are invited to share in our sacred promise. Together we promise to gather in compassionate community, to celebrate diversity of thought and unity of spirit, and to seek wholeness for ourselves, our children, and our world.
This reading comes from, how shall I describe Starhawk? One of the founding goddesses of the goddess movement, I think is the best way to describe her. And this is entitled Community. We are all longing to go home to some place we have never been, a place half remembered and half envisioned we can only catch glimpses of from time to time. Community. Somewhere there are people to whom we can speak with passion without having the words catch in our throats. Somewhere a circle of hands will open to receive us. Eyes will light up as we enter. Voices will celebrate with us whenever we come into our own power. Community means strength that joins our strength to do the work that needs to be done. Arms to hold us when we falter, a circle of healing, a circle of friends, someplace where we can be free. It's official. I give up. I'm done. I started preaching in UU congregations in 2002, beginning with my own lay-led congregation, and then quickly expanded to what is referred to as pulpit supply in other congregations. And for 22 years, I have done what is expected of me. I have submitted titles and descriptions for sermons, usually 6 weeks before writing and preaching them. A lot can happen in 6 weeks. A lot can happen in 24 hours. 7 years ago, I attended a worship design workshop where the presenter encouraged us to create services that would entice and draw people in, all with the realization that something could happen here. Something happened here yesterday. Music magic happened here as our little ensemble rehearsed for today's service. After an exhilarating hour of rehearsal, I returned home to begin writing a sermon based on the life of an amazing African-American woman who lived between 1855 and 1944, Fannie Barrier Williams. She broke down barriers, she built bridges, and spoke truth to power. She is truly an amazing Unitarian ancestor. Her story, oh my goodness, her story is amazing. And she accomplished more in her one lifetime than scores of people over multiple lifetimes. And so I will include a link to her story in the March newsletter. As I sat down to write, I realized that there was not one thing that I could add to her story. And I knew that simply reading her amazing biography would not produce an hour where you would gasp, oh, something could happen here. But I will offer a reflection that I hope honors her legacy. You see, Fannie Barrier Williams was an African-American teacher, social activist, clubwoman, lecturer, and journalist who worked for social justice, civil liberties, education, and employment opportunities, especially for Black women. A talented speaker, writer, and musician, she was welcomed in cultured white society in the North, but remained loyal to people of color, knowing that the advantages she enjoyed were not given to other Blacks. Of all the titles and accomplishments listed to describe Fannie Barrier Williams, none really pull together the totality of who she was. I came up with the title that brings in the totality of who she was, because I believe she was a connector. She connected people, And she connected ideas, and she connected people to ideas. She built relationships with and among people from diverse cultures and backgrounds. And it is that aspect of her life and impact that I bring to you today, in hopes that something could happen here. So I want to talk about connection. Let's talk about relationship and how we come together, warts and all, to create a community. Not so different from a small group of musicians finding their rhythm, finding their groove, and becoming more than 3 individuals, becoming an ensemble. So here's my burning question. Why are we here? What has brought us to this place, not only to UU Amherst, but to Unitarian Universalism? At a time when the nuns, N-O-N-E-S, those who have no religious affiliation, who check none when asked on a form to indicate what religion they are, the nuns, who are the fastest growing spiritual group in this country. So maybe your brain just went, eek. Wait, I thought they weren't religious. I didn't say that they were the fastest growing religious group. They're the fastest growing spiritual group, who check none of the above when invited to say what their religious and spiritual affinities are. And this, I didn't make this up. Sometimes I make things up. No, I don't. But this came from the Pew Research Center. Why have we, if the nuns are outpacing us by a lot, why have we set aside a perfectly lovely Sunday morning? This is mostly as good as it gets in Buffalo. We had our sunshine for the foreseeable future. I hope you got outside a minute or two. But why have we done that? What is at the heart of our impulse to gather together? Hint, heart is a clue. It's been said that the center, the heart of Unitarian Universalism, is not theology. We spend a lot of time talking about what we do or don't believe. That's not the heart of Unitarian Universalism. In fact, our theology actually divides us. Wait, what? Hello, UUA? She's gone off the rails. They will sound surprised when you make that call. I propose that which binds us together is a need for and a striving after relationality. I did notice that when I was typing up my sermon, that Microsoft Word's dictionary does not acknowledge that this word exists. So perhaps that will be my contribution to theological pedagogy. It is my continuing belief that relationality may be our personal center, our ecclesiological center, that just means congregational, and the glue that binds us together where theology could render us asunder. Do we crave relationality? Could that be the God-shaped hole in us that so many evangelicals describe? Ursula Goodenough, in her book, The Sacred Depths of Nature, concludes, humans need stories, grand, compelling stories that help to orient us in our lives and in the cosmos. Stories are the stuff of our relationality, as well as the vehicle for expressing it. It would appear that all sentient beings require some degree of relation with other beings, even if it is only momentary and for the propagation of our own kind. My own need for relationality is in sort of a dynamic flux, with a continuum that spans from time spent in solitude, so in relationship with myself and that which is ultimate, a little further out to friends and family, and then to the outer reaches of my species. And personally, I do much better with those outer reaches when my continuum is balanced by the solitary and contemplative time and space. Countless studies, human, plant, and animal, attest to our need for interaction and stimulation. Whether it is an infant that needs to be touched and held in order to develop secure attachment, goslings that need to imprint with another creature upon hatching, or the leaves of a houseplant turning to seek the sun, all life strives for connection. Perhaps such a need that permeates every level of life development can point us in the direction of the larger universal questions that beg for religious answers. So that's a big assertion, so I'm going to say it one more time. Perhaps that need for connection permeates every level of life development and can point us in the direction of the larger universal questions that beg for religious answers. So, if that is the case, might we be better served if our first principle of Unitarian Universalism acknowledged each individual's need for connection along with inherent worth and dignity? For many, that might seem to be an unnecessary delineation of assumptions, but it might also speak to the more basic religious urge and tension between self-differentiation, I, and community, we. So let's extend that idea a bit further. Inherent in this drive would be light and shadow, positive and negative electrical charges. We must be willing to take the bad with the good. For interconnection and interdependence are not multiple choice propositions. They come with a full array of connections. So remember, a teeter-totter is only fun when you go up and down. Assuming someone of a fairly equal weight and disposition is on the other side of the plank. Being stuck at the bottom, well, this person looks like it's powerful, but I will say that it's boring and maybe inappropriately powerful. And being stuck suspended in the air can be terrifying, and I do believe we are seeing that in this slide. I got this from the internet. I did not go out seeking children to terrify. That also needs to be on the table. It's all about balance as dynamic tension between two poles, between up and down, up and down. In my seminary training, we were confronted with three burning questions. What is it we profess? On whose behalf do we function? To whom or what are we responsible? Or more simply, what do we believe? Whom do we serve? And to whom or what are we responsible? If relationality is indeed the center of it all, then we profess our great connection to each other, to the cosmos, to ideas, to our history, and to our future. So my father taught art in public school for 35 years, which means I have inherited a bit of snobbery when it comes to evaluating good art. I used to exercise that when I went to the same high school, and I would walk through his room and just raise eyebrows at some of the students' work, like, And my father was very kind, and he nurtured those artistic impulses in everyone. I was a bit snobby. So let me invite you to conjure in your mind a particular kind of art that I, in my snobbery, am probably not going to call high art. Are you familiar with string art?
Yes.
It's where small finishing nails appear to be randomly driven into a board, but the picture comes to life when string is woven, linking those tiny nails together to depict a sailboat. So whether or not you think that is good or high art, doesn't really matter, because it's the metaphor and the image that are powerful. It's a powerful image for how we are connected, how we are linked. And it shows that the nails only make sense when those strings connect them and illuminate the relationality. If someone were to just give you a plank of wood with a whole bunch of nails and some string and say, that describes our relationship, you would wonder exactly what they thought of your relationship. But if they were to hand you the fully already done piece of art, oh, the strings make sense. Our relationship is wonderful and like a boat. So let me belabor this metaphor for just one more moment, because I suppose that given that plank with random nails that had been very carefully strung to look like a boat could be restrung without changing any of the nails. We could create something different. We could create something new. Another image would emerge. I know you're going to be hitting the yard sales this summer looking for some string art to depict your relationality. You're welcome. And if you had a piece of string art that you were like, oh, I'm just going to put this in the yard sale, now it has added value to you. Again, you're welcome. Next question. On whose behalf do we function? Whom do we serve? So, as I mentioned, these questions were part of my seminary training, and so you would think, possibly, that the answer is, whom do we serve, ministers? We serve congregations. Thank you very much. That's adorable. That's adorable. You can keep thinking that. I really do. But it's about all of us. If we are really self-differentiated beings, I wonder, do we ever function on anyone else's behalf other than our own? Even when I do something for someone else, am I not somehow reaping a benefit, perceived or actual? It may not be tax write-offable, but I have a benefit. Do we not at some level simply strive to create the world that we wish existed? If I work toward world peace, is it not because I want world peace? There is a benefit for others, of course, but I have a sneaking suspicion that we work best when we include ourselves in that. Who are we serving? Yes, I'm serving others and myself. It's not one or the other. You don't have to put yourself in a little box and say, I'll tend to you next week. It can be about both, and I think it's healthy when it is. As a minister, I strive to foster self-differentiated relational community among the folks here. So back to our string art metaphor for a moment. If I do my job well, I should be able to step away without the pieces of string breaking apart. The pattern should be able to sustain loss and change because the connection, the relationality, is strong. We may shift form from a sailboat to a rescue dog. He's adorable. But the nails and string are still doing what they were meant to do. And the story lives on in individual and collective lives. We create the connections together. And yet the connections must survive beyond us. In this case, the whole really must be greater than the sum of its parts. I will note that this congregation in 2024 is celebrating its 70th anniversary. There are a few folks who have been here that whole time, but there have been many more who have come and gone, who have added their elements to the artwork, and when they left, the artwork did not fall apart. It continued, it grew, it changed. It's all the same. All right, to our third question. To whom or what are we responsible? Well, that answer is obvious to me. The greater whole. I believe in the life-changing power of Unitarian Universalism because I've experienced it. But beyond my personal testimony, I see how the larger movement, which is so much bigger even than the association, and the histories of Unitarians and Universalists, how all that has the potential to capture people and nurture them into personhood. With relationality as our core, the more we work to establish and maintain healthy relationships with ourselves, each other, our sense of the ultimate, the more connection we will experience. Remembering the wide continuum of connection and the truth of maintaining that dynamic tension, the teeter-totter, if relationality is our need to connect, and if that is the God-shaped whole, the universal need that points us in the direction of religious answers, then we are able to recognize and name its transformative power. So let's return briefly to my original question. Why are we here? Why the church? Why not just social action? Why not a club? Because I believe we need to construct meaning. Our social action must be rooted in meaning, but it does not inherently contain meaning. Rather, it names it and gives it form. We may find meaning in our actions, but the actions themselves are not the meaning. We come together in community, to church, to name our experiences, maybe compare notes. We assign meaning. We evaluate and change meaning because we can outgrow meanings. Oh, am I the only one that's ever done that? Perhaps it's happened to you. We might look like and maybe even function like a club, but if we are relating to one another and creating meaning out of experience and ideas, then we're doing church. Being in relation with one another, and maybe even right relation, maybe that's the glue, the tie that binds. Blessed be the tie that binds our hearts in Christian love, the fellowship of kindred hearts is like to that above. I've shared with some of you before, remembering standing in a large circle in my grandparents' church, holding hands with quavering voices joined together in that old hymn. And looking back, I see it was just as much about holding hands, about singing, about looking into one another's eyes, as it was with anyone's definition of what Christian love might be. So I just had an insight as to why the hand-holding, the circle, and the singing in UU congregations isn't always the same. May not have that same feeling to it. We sing Spirit of Life, which is not about our relationality with each other, but our individual relationship with an idea. Even when we sing, from you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live, it's still not the same. In that instance, I think the difference lies in the glaring omission of the ultimate, of the sacred. Where is the dynamic tension? Where is the teeter-totter? It isn't enough to just join hands and sing. The Girl Scouts do that. They do it magnificently. We crave connection with the universal and the holy, and with ourselves, and with each other. Process theologian Henry Nelson Wyman is perhaps best remembered for his declaration that our ultimate commitment is to that which has the power to transform us as we cannot transform ourselves when the necessary conditions have been met. The congregation exists to find and maybe even create those necessary conditions and how they can be met. That's the why we gather. That's the why this place. Unitarian Universalists seem to be split between a comfort with the rational and a need for paradox. the need to relate to the world of ideas and to communicate those ideas to one another. Our theological diversity may indeed divide us. And if that is the core of our movement, then I believe we will fade away with a postmodern yawn. Yet I don't perceive that the world is ready for Unitarian Universalism to fall off the radar. Indeed, I believe the world needs what we have to offer more than any other time in history. Assuming that we can pull it together and add connection to individual worth and dignity, we have what I think is a pretty simple message. You are not alone. We get to sing again with our awesome ensemble. The song is Come and Go With Me. You are welcome to look in the teal hymnal. It's number 1018. Words will also be up front. Please rise and body, and if you feel like you need to dance, it's really okay. Count us in. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm found. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm found. Please remain standing as we extinguish our chalice and then have time for a few brief announcements. Nikki, would you extinguish our chalice? Thanks. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. You may be seated.
As our service draws to an end, our service to the world is ready to begin. Let me tell you about some of the opportunities to connect and serve in the days to come. Please join us for coffee and conversation immediately following the service. We meet in the Emerson room, just through those double doors at the back of the chapel. And a huge shout out and thank you in all caps with exclamation points to all who helped with the cleaning and painting extravaganza over the last couple of weeks. A very large undertaking. If you are interested in what is happening with our Green Justice team and the upcoming Living Green Festival in September, yes, planning begins now. See Wendy Scott during coffee hour so you can be added to the Zoom meeting that is happening this Thursday evening. And now for an announcement regarding the upcoming annual meeting. Bruce.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. As stipulated in the church bylaws, this is an official statement of notice that the annual 2024 annual meeting of the congregation will be held on Sunday, February 25th, starting at noon here in the chapel. It will be primarily an in-person meeting. However, there will be remote participation available via our YouTube channel for those who would feel that's best for them. That will require advance registration. This information, as you see on the screen, has been in the weekly update and also in the February newsletter. The business to be conducted at the annual meeting will be election to fill open positions, approval of the church budget, and contribution to UUA. We'll also have bylaw amendments that will be considered, and then a sense of the congregation motion will be considered revolving around the endowment trust. More information will be coming out. The board is meeting tomorrow night to consider the proposed budget. So within the next several days, you'll be receiving information for those who have email. For those who get mail, you'll get it in the mail about the details of the business items that will be considered at that meeting. Please join us on February 25th, starting at noon. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Next week's service on February the 18th. Next week we have experienced sermonator and worship associate from the Buffalo UU, Julie Taylor, as our guest speaker. Her topic is the gamble. She suggests that there exists a gamble between intentionally influencing the arc of the universe and trusting the movement of the universe through meditation and observation. The choice is yours. Do you gamble? As always, see the church newsletter, the foreword, for information regarding upcoming services and events. Since our return to in-person services following the first wave of the pandemic, we have moved from passing baskets for the offering during the service. Instead, we invite you to participate in supporting the ministry and mission of UU Amherst with your financial gift at the end of the service. You'll find a green basket at the back of the chapel to receive your contributions, or you can give online by going to our website, uuamherst.org, and clicking on the giving link, or text your gift to the number on the screen. Your gifts and participation are important because we pick fruit from trees we did not plant. We drink water from wells we did not dig. This is as it should be, so long as we dig and plant for those who come after us. Your generous giving supports the work of this congregation. And now, please rise in body or spirit as we sing our closing blessing, and please remain standing afterward for the benediction.
Travel light and travel easy till I see you once again. Travel light and travel easy, and remember sing to one another. Travel light and travel easy, till I see once again. Travel light and travel easy, and remember I'm your friend. Take courage, friends. The way is often hard, the path is never clear, and the stakes are very high. Take courage, for deep down there is another truth. You are not alone. Take us out, guys.